Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of For Your Consideration Film Review. I'm your host, Mr. Chris Gagne. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Rinaldo Russo. Yes, he can say his own name. I don't need to say it. I'll just let him say, "What's up, buddy? How you been?"
What's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah.
It's going.
Yeah.
Quarantine life. So
Gotta love it. I was just saying, having a beer and after, to wash down my 6 pieces of pizza. That's ultimate quarantine Friday right now.
6? That's good.
Solid.
I could get 3 down, maybe 4 after like 30 minutes.
Now I go like 3 and 3 or like a 4-2. Just like I washed it's dessert with pizza, more pizza. That's all it is. Like I can put down pizza. That's the food.
Okay. All right.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't do it. So yeah. So we picked another classic. We actually went a little further back in time, almost 25 years to dig this bad boy out. But we decided on the OG Mission Impossible, Mr. Tom Cruise in 1996 with Brian De Palma. De Palma?
Because I thought it was De Palma.
Yeah, thank you. It was a little slip. My apologies to our good friend, Mr. De Palma.
Is he
director,
still alive?
I think so. So. I looked him up because I had to, remind myself, like, I know he did The Untouchables. I know he did Scarface. He also directed our favorite Mission to Mars. Yeah, and he is, I got a lot to say about him, but anyhow, the first installment in what, ends up being a 25-year-long run and more, because they're absolutely making another one. Let's get into some Mission Impossible from 1996. God, man, I felt old. Tom Cruise actually looked young.
He looked good. 96. Let's go back in time. 1996. I was 16 years old, and I remember watching this movie in the theater at Pleasant Hill at the Dome.
Good times. Good times.
It was me and my clique at the time. It was, I don't know, it was like 2 guys and myself and like 3 girls, and we were was a clique, and I think maybe I drove or somebody drove. I was 16, so I guess I could drive. I don't know. And 1996. It was that long. It's that long since it started.
I mean, sadly, the Dome's not even around anymore, so that's even greater history right there. That was one of the best theaters to see a film at. I miss that. It's a Dick's Sporting Goods now. Sad days.
Is. So if you guys don't know, the Dome used to be this massive theater with a huge dome. It was almost like an IMAX type theater in a way, and you could fit so many people in that, and that was like the spot to go. And that was their biggest screen, and they had like 4 other screens. Yeah, that was the Dome Theater in Pleasant Hill, California. Shout outs to Contra Costa.
All right. Based on a classic television series from the 60s. I never really saw the episodes. I think I've seen clips here and there, but never watched the TV show. Did you ever see the TV show?
No, I never watched the TV show. I remember all I remember was the intro, which was kind of like the spark, the dynamite spark, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I don't recall watching anything. I maybe watched a clip like yourself, but I was never into it. I remember the theme song.
Sure.
But I was never into the TV show.
Yeah, and just the iconic line, your mission should you choose to accept it. But beyond that, 60s, I wasn't kind of really going back and watching many TV shows in the 60s when, the 90s were hitting and, doing some deep dive into what was Mission Impossible. But
okay. Was it the 60s?
Yeah, the TV show? It was.
Wow, those are good times back in the 60s.
Yeah, you're the elder statesman of this group, so you probably remember.
I am not that old. Am I young?
Yeah, you got me by a year, so we'll call you the elder statesman of the show.
Whatever. Anyways, let's keep going. 1996. So you saw it on video.
At home on video. On VHS, indeed. Yeah. Cassette tape, yes. Okay. Ugh. At home, probably on a 30-inch screen, 32 if we were lucky,
That's pretty big back then.
That's decent size, yeah. Yeah, it's decent size to play my Super Nintendo on.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, and I remember man, I remember being phenomenal. Just, one of those movies that made for the theater. I wish I would have seen it in theaters, but loved rewatching it because a lot of iconic action. Grew up on Tom Cruise. He's only like 10 years removed from like Top Gun at this point. Like, dude's just like riding high,
Right.
building his resume, and he's charismatic. What are you gonna say? Like, you almost don't make this movie if it's not Tom Cruise, or at least you don't get 25 sequels, wherever they're at now, because
7.
Sure, 7, 8, I don't know. It might pass Fast and Furious. I'm now waiting
And
to see which one.
Each one keeps getting better, with the exception of number 2.
Yeah, number 2 was exactly that.
Talk about that.
No, God, no. But let's talk about this one, because I don't know how many people truly remember a lot about this, and that's why I wanted to cover it, because I have these like very vivid memories of seeing it for the first time and really thinking it was just so cool, like one of the cooler movies that I saw. But the film starts, and the first thing I didn't forget, but you don't think about it a lot because you think Tom Cruise, Mr. Possible, was Mr. Emilio Young Guns Estevez on the IMF team, and I had to give a shout of Emilio when I saw him on screen, because why wouldn't you yell Emilio?
It was fun to see Emilio on there, and he goes uncredited when the credits start rolling. So
interesting. I don't think I caught that he wasn't in the credits.
I'm pretty sure he's not in the credits.
You know what I did catch in the credits?
What?
Score by Danny Elfman.
It's in my notes.
Oh, see?
It's in my notes, Danny Elfman. It's in my notes. Yeah. I could hear a little bit of Michael Keaton's Batman in there in the score, with a little bit of the Beetlejuice strings in there. So you could tell, Danny Elfman.
Yep. Yeah, I was surprised. I actually forgot, or at that time really didn't know. And so, going back and now revisiting these things, you're catching all these little things where somebody, was a writer on something, and now they're this huge producer or director,
Right.
But they wrote part of the script treatment for some film like this. But Danny Elfman, good times. The score's great. I enjoyed it. It's fun. The movie's short. I forgot how short it is compared to the ones now. Like, it's about a half hour shorter than what they're running now. And an hour and 50 minutes is like, it's perfect for that. Like, it's just scene after scene after scene. The story moves along. It doesn't allow you to really kind of rest on anything other than like the focus on him getting to find out what happens to, his team and how they all go down. And that's probably why Emilio wasn't even in the credits, because he's not in the film for more than 5 minutes. Spoilers.
No.
Yeah.
So, truth be told, when I first saw it, I was so confused by it. And the more I watched it, the more I got it. Watching it this last time, I actually figured out the whole movie. I understood the whole movie because I'm older and I'm smarter now.
Yes.
And it was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I got a little tired at the end, but right when the big finale chasing, which we'll talk about later, it just perked me back up. And I was like, Let's do this, Tommy. We're in.
I noted some things because I realized that as much as I agree with that, it's very dated. It feels so dated now. Like, some movies you go back and watch, like if you were to even see something like Jurassic Park or give me some other 96 movies, The Rock, like, there is some real overt, like, just old school. And I don't know if they was trying to pay homage to like the TV show, but some of the style of it was just really like, wow, seeing floppy disks, obviously, like that's one thing. You're like, what is
It's on my notes.
It's the save button. That's the save button.
Yeah. Floppy disk is on my notes. And then the emails, the way they wrote their emails, right? I'm like, wait, that's not how an email is written, with this big old box and it's just an email, right?
His search bar is like JOB. Like, if you were to return a search for that right now, like on Google, like it's just.
And he's trying to jam the signal at the end, and in order to jam the signal, he writes jam signal on the computer, and it jams the signal. So
so the room, which we could get to that because that's actually a big scene and it's an iconic scene, and I think that people like emulated it a lot after this movie. But there was a sign in that room that said, there's a big ass box that says countermeasures on off, and it's just a light box that goes on to off. One, why is that necessary in that room? Why do you need to know that they're on when you're in the room? Is there a camera on it that shows you that? Why isn't there a sensor outside of that room? Like, it's just like some little things that really like, wow, like he's smoking on a plane in the beginning of the movie. Like,
That's right.
That seemed odd to me because by that time smoking was banned on flights. Like, I mean,
I know that on some a while ago on some Asian airlines you could smoke. Now,
okay,
I could be wrong, and maybe someone's going to correct me, but I was under the assumption that there were some Asian airlines that you could smoke on.
I mean, you're forgiving the script writer, but he shouldn't have been smoking. But
right,
back when Hollywood could actually allow smoking, I mean, hardly ever now do you see people just casually smoking because why not? Like, I was surprised to see that. And also surprised because it was already banned on flights, but maybe they weren't flying to Asia though, so.
Stop it. Okay. I mean, but the way that, like you said, the way that it was filmed, I noticed that, and I think the director was kind of like, you noticed a lot of the close-up shots and the angled shots.
Totally.
Right? And it was very like espionage because that's what it's supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not familiar with those type of films, it might, I don't know, kind of be a turnoff, but I appreciated the close-ups, the angles, and just kind of like the, whoa, what's going on, right? So
yeah, absolutely. There's a vision to it, and you can tell, and it fits with the frenetic pace of the movie, and you know how it's a puzzle, and it's I think shot very well, and that part holds up. But yeah, it's just the old stuff. You're like, all right.
Yeah, the floppy disk. And, the floppy disk. Yeah.
The computers themselves, are just like
the big old monitors, right? That stuck out. Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah, the sound sensors, the bars, just giant like meters, very like overt, like in your face technology, and not like. I mean, now and the stuff that they can do is just it's.
But
insane.
At the time, that was it, right? We bought that because we're like, whoa, look at all that stuff. We're 96, right? So, how old were we when the internet came out? 18?
Yeah, 17.
When it really blew
16,
up?
17, yeah. So, losing a signal, in a tunnel, like wouldn't have had a signal. Like, I mean, the fact that she's got like internet connection. While she's on a train, they didn't have that back then. So that was, I guess, pretty like high tech.
Maxine.
All right, where'd your notes go next?
I remember when I first watched the first part that really confused the hell out of me was when he met Kittredge, the IMF director, after his whole team was supposedly killed, right?
Uh-huh.
When he met him in that restaurant, in that aquarium type restaurant. And I just remember, what the hell is going on, right? Like, this is supposed to be the director. Maybe I couldn't hear him well. And it turns out that supposedly there was a mole on that team or in their team or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why the second team, which included the drunk Russians and the person on the stairs,
right?
They were there to monitor them because somebody wanted the knock list from that team. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's what always threw me off, was like, boy, I don't get it. And I finally kind of understood what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, call out to how shitty that second team was. Did they not even see Homeboy doing what he does? Like, how was he walking around without the second team, anyone being on him to see him creating all this chaos? I thought that was kind of funny. I noted that the first disguise or second disguise, I don't know, there's just too many disguises in this movie. Whatever he wears to the party that Tom Cruise does, he looks like Ross Perot. Did you notice that?
Oh my gosh, that is creepy. I always thought he looked like Ross Perot.
Yeah, and he does like a southern accent. I swear, I was like, is that supposed to be Ross Perot? Like, I feel like, because that was kind of around the time that he ran for president as an independent. So I was like, okay, maybe that is supposed to be Ross Perot, but I thought that was funny. And then I thought, I noted that it's not very common, but that was savage to start a movie with his entire team getting taken out. Like, savage. Like, you don't get a lot of time to like develop feelings for those people, but you think and you feel for him the way it's done, where it just absolutely goes into chaos and he loses all of his team, and then he's kind of drawn to the restaurant, and he's just like freaking out, and I thought that was just really well done how that was set up.
Yeah, I mean, you felt when this whole team got taken out. I hated the fact that Emilio, Jack was his name, got taken out. I hated that. I wanted more of him in the movie.
Jack had to die because
no,
there's only room for one computer guy, and we
Luther.
get Marcellus Wallace, and Luther is the man, the only man who has been in every other Mission Impossible film with Tom Cruise. That's so amazing. True. That's legit. True. Like, Luther is the fucking man, and he like has the best scene in the newest movie, and I absolutely love that character, and that's why Jack had to die, because they were like, Emilio, like,
no, but
we need Luther.
I mean, I get Luther's great. I'm not gonna die. I love Luther, right? And he's great, but we can't use more Emilio nowadays,
I mean, dude was hardly working at that point. They threw him a bone.
When did Simon Pegg come on? Was it the second one, Benji?
Third one.
The third one.
When Mr. J.J. Abrams stepped in to fix what John Woo messed up. And man, the third one we can get to that later, but I love the third one. It's so good.
I did too. That's my favorite one.
So good. Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, just fantastic. What was I going to say now? Where were you going next?
I was ready to go into the scene where they were going to go and steal the knockless from Langley, Virginia.
Okay, yeah, the computer room scene.
The computer rooms, right? So they hire these two disavowed agents, right? Luther and
the professional
guy. The professional. That was him, right?
Yeah.
The professional.
He's French. Jean Reno.
Yeah, and that seems classic. I wasn't in suspense like I normally am, probably because I've watched it several times.
Right.
But it's still a really good scene. It's a really good scene. It's kind of an iconic scene now if you think about it, because so many people parody it now, and coming down in the string on wires, and you're black and wearing black, and just, I don't know.
Including a great MTV Music Award or Movie Award where Ben Stiller plays Tom Cruise's stuntman.
I remember that.
He redoes that scene. Oh, so good.
I remember that. Yeah, so I think that's the next big iconic scene in that movie. It was done really well. The whole, how it was guarded by lasers upstairs, and any drop in temperature, the locks and everything. So yeah, it was cool. It was fun. That scene's never going to be replicated again, and it stands alone by itself. Those are really good scenes, I thought.
Yeah, it's the start of Tom Cruise on a wire. I mean, which is pretty much every Mission Impossible movie in some way, shape, or form. It's like it's required in the script. You have to write that he's suspended from something, and then he has to run a lot. Like, it's a lot now, but it was even a lot in this movie. I'm like, in the beginning, when he's running over the bridge and running back and running down the hall, and he just runs. He just likes to run in movies.
I read an article, and I don't know if it's true or not. I read an article saying that it's in his contract that nobody in movies can run with him, except in a movie that I've never seen, supposedly. The female lead in that movie runs with him, and that is the only time that somebody has ran with him.
What movie?
The Mummy.
Oh, good thing you didn't see it. It's awful.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It's bad. It's really bad.
So I don't know. I've seen almost all his movies, and I just remember him running by himself. I can't remember somebody else running with him.
You can only play with the boy. You can't run with the boy.
You can play with the boys.
It's playing with the boys, not running with the boys. Got it.
Yeah. Playing with the boys. If nobody knows what that is, then you're not a Tom Cruise fan.
We can't help you. Yeah.
I'm not going to help you guys out if you're not a Tom Cruise fan. So yeah. So again, somebody proved me wrong. I could be wrong, but somebody proved me wrong. find somebody where another movie where Tom Cruise is running with somebody else besides the Mummy. There, challenge.
I smell a spin-off show coming where we find celebrity contracts and just talk about the weird things that are in them. Like, nobody can run with me. I always have to have a leading lady with dark hair and light eyes, and she has to be shorter than me. Can we talk about how awkward that was? The Ethan Hunt, Claire, Phelps relationship. Like, this is your mentor's wife, and like, you're very like, especially like right after he dies, like it's just very like awkward. I don't know. Like he grabs her a couple times where I'm like, that's weird.
When she first comes into the room, right? When he breaks the glass because somebody, he's trying to figure out. She comes into the room and he throws her on the bed. Like, why did you? Or he's like accusing her of something, and you can feel that there's some kind of like tension, like. Yeah. Right. And so that kind of gets to my next point, unless you have another comment about the amazing trapeze act by Mr. Cruise.
No, I was just going to say that coffee in Kiev moment. I think she made him coffee in bed in Kiev, and Phelps didn't know about it because their relationship made me uncomfortable. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's John Voight. So.
Noted. Yeah. All right. What were you going to say?
Okay. So, did Claire and Ethan did they sleep together?
I think it's implied.
So you think they did?
Yes.
I do too.
I think so.
I absolutely. But you notice when? I mean, even though they didn't show it, do you know when he did it? Do you remember the scene that made you think he did it? Because I do.
The scene where he's on top of her like this, like holding her down on the bed. I was like,
no. I remember the scene that I think it happened right after was when she was in the corner. It was right after Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise or Mr. Phelps shows up to Tom Cruise and Tom or Ethan, and Tom's like, "Whoa, you're alive," and all that stuff, and he starts figuring it all out. Which was a really weird scene, by the way, because as a viewer, you're watching Ethan see Jim Phelps come back to life. But Ethan is figuring out that, wait a minute, this guy's a liar. He's plotting all these things. But at the same time, you're not exactly sure if that's true or not.
Well, and Jim's telling it from the perspective of somebody else doing that to him. And all the while, Ethan is seeing it in his head as being Jim, and so you got these contrasting stories being told at the same time, which actually I thought was cool because you're seeing this visual, but you're hearing this audio that don't match up, and so you're like,
I found that confusing, but I found it works.
Yeah, I definitely it can be confusing for that first watch because you're like, wait, is he lying? Is he telling the truth? And they're trying to do that, but. I think by that point, you're like, wait a second. Like, especially now when you watch it again and you notice that video and you just see the arm like this. Like, I'm like, how did I not see that? I was 15 and not looking for that stuff. And not, you notice those things as you rewatch films. So I don't want to.
Yeah. Supposedly in the beginning of the movie, right when the music starts and the intro happens, right? And all those clips that go pretty quick, right? Supposedly, there's a scene there where it shows them together, Ethan and Claire. Now, I don't know. You can go back and rewatch it. But the scene that made me think that happened was when she was in the corner. It was right after he met Jim. He found out that Jim was alive. And she was in the corner, and he came up to her, and she grabbed his hand, and she went like this, right? Like, right? And then she started kissing his hand. She was kind of like, I don't know, she's getting it on with his hand. And then it just fades to black.
Sure.
But the weird part was that if that's when it happened, Ethan did it after he found out that Jim was a traitor. So in a way, it was almost kind of like he was doing it for revenge. You know what I mean? It was weird. It's kind of, my thinking could be totally wrong, but it just seemed like, okay, you're doing it after you found out that your mentor, your father figure, in a way, right? just realized that he's a traitor and he was backstabber. He wanted you dead and all that. And so now you're gonna go get revenge on him by.
There's a name for it. They call it revenge. So yeah, sure. I buy it, and it's probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It was not necessary for the plot of the film, and so I think they probably just cut it out. But it makes you feel like, because of that awkwardness, that in that scene in particular, you point out that it was probably shot, and then they probably were like, "We really don't need this. This doesn't."
Probably, yeah. So that I understood that more this last time that I watched it than any other time.
Otherwise, it just feels like this weird relationship where they have this underlying something, and you're like, why is he on top of her like that? Why is she so like mousy and like with him? Like, it's what is going on? Like, it felt just so out of sorts for that.
It was like a AJ and Gracie type of weird moment with the animal cracker.
Yeah.
So shout out to Armageddon. If you haven't watched that episode, watch that episode.
Yes.
Watch it.
Thank you. Yeah. Our inaugural foray into old cinema.
Yeah, don't judge it from the pilot. Don't judge it from the first pilot. Anyways, all right. Yeah, so that was kind of the big thing on my mind regarding that scene that just kind of finally stood out for the first time watching. It's like, okay, Claire and Ethan, did they or did they not? But now I'm thinking they did.
Oh, yeah.
Weird time when Ethan did it. And, at this point, all hell breaks loose. So
speaking of, the train, the amazing finale train scene, it's great. It's total spy espionage. She's trying to download the list. Luther's trying to cut out the signal and distract them. And Ethan's trying to find Jim. Doesn't know it's Jim yet. He does know.
But he is Jim. Ethan is Jim, right?
Yes.
Ethan is dressed as Jim.
That is the third or fourth mask change by that point. But yes, he's dressed up as Jim. He likes to wear lots of masks. It's nothing better than just ripping the mask off like every other scene.
Yeah, so he was Jim. So yeah,
that's all spy work is, apparently, is just masks. Which I love that they called out in the new movie. That there's like a little tongue-in-cheek joke about, you guys just like to play dress up, don't you? Like,
yeah. Which, by the way, people, Fallout was nothing short of amazing. All right, so do you want to go to the finale? The helicopter scene?
Yeah. Right. Red light, green light?
Red light, green light. But lasagna, don't get any on ya. Something like that. Right?
Such a bad line. Oh, hasta lasagna, don't get any on ya.
So go ahead. I'll let you kick it off.
That scene's better than I remember. The special effects hold up. Mm-hmm. You've got a helicopter chasing the train that has Ethan and Jim on top fighting, which hilarious. Like, Jon Voight's like already like 80 at this point. How is he up there doing this with his full jumpsuit and all of their awesome? Like, do you just not want a pair of suction things so you can climb up walls?
Yeah.
Truth be told, I wouldn't be able to climb up the wall. I would just hang there.
Just hang.
And be very happy that I would
hang. Just pray to God that you don't.
God, every time I see those, I just want them, and I wish I had them just to play around with. But they're on the train. It's a bullet train. It's moving so fast that, like, they're falling and going down. You're waiting for somebody to fall off, but it doesn't ever happen, which is amazing. Right. But the copter gets lashed onto the train. I mean, gets pulled into the tunnel. That whole scene's still flawless. Like, I was looking, you go back and see these older films and special effects, and you want to see, like, okay, how they tried to do it, or like how they make it work. It looks good. It still looks good. The blue screen that they used to, show them in the tunnel, like on with the wind, and like it works. I was actually surprised that that held up, because at that point I was watching this movie going, my God, it's not as good as I remembered. Like, right. I'm having fun still. I know the things that are coming, but got to the train scene. I was like, yes, this is why you came. Like, this is
for it.
Oh, totally. It made it for everything. It brought it back from like where I was like, oof, I don't know, to like, oh yes, I loved this part. Like this is a great action sequence. I don't think there had been a lot of stuff like that. You know, it just a bullet train, a helicopter, you know, guys fighting on top of it. Like you've got people fighting on top of trains, but it's usually in a Western and, you know, out in the open. You just, this was chaotic and kind of kept me like intense again. Cause you don't remember every like punch and hit and what happens.
Right.
And yeah, I'm impressed. I was thoroughly happy that I forgot how detailed that was and how good it was.
I agree. I think that finale, the helicopter chase scene was the bullet train was great. There was one part that I go back and I watch now, is right when they're going into the tunnel, and you see the helicopter go into the tunnel, right? That's the only part that I was like, but what? Because the tunnel doesn't seem that big, right? The tunnel doesn't seem that big from the outside.
When the helicopter goes into it too.
It doesn't seem that big, right? But once you're in the tunnel, you're like, oh, this is a big tunnel. I get it. But
it gets bigger as you get in through the tunnel. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever. But
small entrance, deep pockets.
Yeah. So as you're going, yeah, the tunnel seemed pretty small, right? Because it was hooked on by the cable to the train, and you go in there. So I was like, oh, okay, right. But then you see the shot in the tunnel. I was like, oh, okay, this is a big tunnel, right? You guys tricked me. And then
3 helicopters can fit in there.
Yeah, like 4, right? It was huge. I get it now. It works. But yeah, right when the professional, I don't know what his name is. Do you know what
Jean Reno? Yeah.
Jean Reno. What's his name in the movie?
Irrelevant.
Oh man, is it like Krishmanov or
no?
Karini or something like that?
I'm gonna look it up just so.
Kravinov.
Krieger.
Krieger. Krieger. Close. Krieger. Okay, so when Krieger is on the helicopter and Tom Cruise is on the train, right? And he's like this, and the blades are spinning, and they stop right at his neck because the helicopter hits the top of the roof, right? And all of a sudden stops, and the music kicks in like the Mission Impossible, and then Tom Cruise skates, like he hulks up like the Hulkster, right? It's like, okay, it's on, right?
Yeah.
And then that part is just like, damn, okay, it's pretty short, but it gets you pumped up. The music starts, and Tom Cruise is like, I got this. So he jumps on top of the bottom of the helicopter, and gets this little piece of gum that Amelia gave him, and he says, red light, green light, and then right, and he just kind of
like half jumps off the copter / gets blown into the train.
So, yeah. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is cool. He should have been blown up, but it's all right because the force of the explosion just shot him onto the train. And then you see John Voight just, his body just kind of mangled.
If you note, when he blows up the restaurant, which that tiny piece of gum blew another person, there's a waiter in that scene. The explosion's small, but dude who's standing next to it just flies back. So it's very powerful force gum. It's double mint. That's how strong it is.
Yeah.
What else you got, man? I mean, that's kind of where I wrapped up. It's a good. At that point, you had no idea it was going to be sequels. Back then there weren't a lot of films that had sequels. It wasn't it wasn't very common that just because a movie was made that it was going to get a sequel. It's a big budget, it's going to get a sequel. Didn't happen a lot. So I think it's great as it lets it stand alone. It doesn't need, you obviously know that they live and mission isn't impossible. They figure it out, and whatever, we wait 4 years for another sequel, but this one stands well on its own, albeit cheesy, albeit a little dated now. I still like it. It was one of those, I would rent it or catch it again if it's available. I would not buy it and own it anymore because I'm not going to turn it on. I realize why I didn't have it in my library.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good, solid entry into the series.
Yeah,
it's a very solid entry. Yeah. It's good. It keeps you on your toes. It's kind of confusing, a lot of spy espionage type of back and forth. So solid movie. I liked it. I recommend it. Not my favorite in the series, but it was a solid first choice.
Yeah, it's still good for all its faults and cheesiness, and 15-year-old me didn't care so much about some of the silliness that I find in movies now, and so worth the watch again, but definitely lower than I remember on my list of like all my favorites, because I think I would have put this probably in like the top 3. Now it's like it's a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Not quite at the MI2, but that's the thing is like that's the worst of them, and that's like trash. And then like even if Mission Impossible the original one is better than that, and that's the next best one, it's so far way better than MI2. They're like so.
And I know we bash part 2 a lot, but I think nobody really knew the directions these movies were going to take, right? So I think John Woo kind of put his own spin on it, but it just didn't work. The whole slow motion, the whole doves, the things that he does, and just the motorcycle chasing in the number 2, and just it did not work, and it's not what we want in a Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
So props to J.J. Abrams who corrected it, and still kind of upset for Star Wars, but anyways. All right.
So what's our rating system? We've got costume changes or masks. We could do Emilio's, if you will.
I'm leaning towards Emilio's just because we haven't seen him. I haven't seen him since, I don't know, Young Guns, Mighty Ducks.
Did he do anything after 1996? I don't know that he's done a lot.
I don't think
and he wasn't really doing a lot then. Like it's kind of like
he was a name. 90s. He was Young Guns, both of them. The Mighty Ducks.
92, 93, yeah.
The Mighty Ducks Breakfast Club, right?
That was like in the 80s.
Oh yeah. Did you ever see that? Did you ever see that movie Men at Work?
Of course,
with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Early 90s as well. Like, yeah, he had like his like late 80s, early 90s, but then he kind of like trails off, and and then you just run into him in LA, and you're like, Emilio.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it. You go first. What are you giving it?
From what? How many? What's our scale again?
Our scale's a 5.
A 5. Okay. Okay. I can't, I know I went all out with Armageddon, and I went straight up 5 asteroids.
Yeah, I know.
But I know, and you know what? I don't regret it, and I think we should go back and change that. We should just go back.
You're gonna change my 4 to a 5? Is that?
Yeah, I'm gonna edit the video. Yeah. Okay, so let's give it Emilio Estevez. I'm going to give this movie I'm going to give it a 3. 3 Emilios. It was a solid movie, not my favorite, not the best. It kept me intrigued. The finale was great. But because everything else besides number 2 has been better, and they keep improving them, it's kind of like, okay, well, you've outdone yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which is great, because everything else, like I said, besides 2, is fantastic.
Sure.
And so, solid entry. Good movie. I recommend it. I would give it 3 Emilios. Bourbon.
I gotta agree with you on this one. 3 Emilios. That's where I had it. I thought about doing like 2 Emilios and a mask, but I'll go.
2 Emilios and a mask.
I'm gonna go with a solid 3 Emilios. It was a 2. It definitely was a 2 for me until the finale, and then that brought it back for me because. Man, like you said, I was kind of just like, not falling asleep, but just kind of like, okay, yeah, this scene, okay. And then that scene, I was like, yes, this is why this movie was made. This is great. This is, this wrapped it up fantastic. The story's just complex enough to make it not some dumb action popcorn flick. And so I appreciate that. And I would recommend it. Like, if you haven't seen it because you're just so tired of Tom Cruise, or you're used to only watching the new ones and you just never knew, like, watch it. Like, yes, it's dated. Yes, but see, like, how spy movies should be. Like, the new ones aren't spy movies so much as they're action films.
They're
now.
action. They're
great.
Action flicks.
And I love them.
Yeah.
But they're not so complex any further than most Bond films are, where there's a bad guy, they usually have a nuke or something to take over the world, and, you know, they gotta stop. So,
yeah.
I dig it. I liked it. I got nothing else, man.
That's it. 3 Emilios.
I would say, you know, let us know what you guys think about Mission Impossibles. How many Emilios? Go back and listen to our inaugural episode and tell us what you thought about Armageddon and how many asteroids that has. And,
5. It's got 5. 5.
How many asteroids it has for listeners, you know, like our parents and our friends and family who are our supporters.
I don't think my parents would
Cheers.
ever watch Armageddon.
But they might watch this, so maybe they'll get inspired.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Sounds good.
And we may have to just go to The Rock next, man, because I haven't seen it in a while, and it would be fun. But we'll keep you posted on what we're going to do next. And for your consideration, I have been Chris Gagne.
And I'm Rinaldo. So.
And we'll see you guys next time.
All right, later,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.